Well, we're live, I guess. We'll see how this goes, how it works out. The second time I've done this, so sometimes it can be busy, sometimes it isn't. I figured I'd start off today talking about some of the things that, let's adjust this just a tad bit. There we go. It's kind of weird because when I look at it, I look at that, and if I look at that, it looks, yeah. Anyway. I've had a lot of people over the last couple of years ask about that right there, that thing right there, the Slipknot plaque, why it's up there, what it has to do with me, what have you. And I figured I'd spend a little time talking about it today. Basically, first off and foremost, I have to give you a kind of a disclaimer. If you talk to anybody from Des Moines, that's over the age of maybe 35 that had anything to do with the music scene in any way, shape, or form, they probably know somebody from Slipknot. It's statistically possible is what I'm getting at. And that's because when you think about it, there's 9 members plus 3 former members that either lived in the Des Moines, Iowa area or were from the Des Moines, Iowa area. And all of them participated in things like live music, bands, social life, everything else. So it's kind of hard if you're in a room of like 20 people over the age of 35 to not hit somebody if you throw a rock that didn't know them in one way, shape, or form. So anyway, what I'm talking about is this thing right here, the plaque. And why isn't it? There we go. So, yeah, I got this as a Christmas present, late Christmas present, I might say, in July, actually. It was one of those things where they sent it out, and it finally got here in July. And what it is just an appreciation plaque. I was a close friend of the band for a long period of time, dating back to when I first met Paul Gray. Which Paul Gray, when I started piercing in Des Moines in 1994, was the first lip piercing I did in Des Moines. It was within the first week I'd opened. He set up an appointment, came in, got that done. We hit it off right away because we shared a lot of musical tastes, especially when it comes to things like punk rock, especially Southern California punk rock. The bands like this one right here, X. The Circle Jerks, Social Distortion, Suicidal Tendencies, Black Flag, The Descendants, Adolescents, all of that stuff. And we kind of, just instantly connected on that musical level, which would be a part of our relationship for until he died in 2010. The problem was he was moving. He had just decided he was going to move back to California, and so it was kind of like a bittersweet kind of hangout, and then he was gone kind of thing. That was the case until probably, I want to say it was August of 86 or so. And the shop had kind of become part of the local scene here, so to speak. I did a lot of shows. Well, I guess it kind of became like the place to go after the bars closed. We had a lot of after parties there, and during that period of time, I met a lot of the guys from Slipknot that would go on to be future members, etc. Also was part of the scene there. One question, and then we'll go back to Slipknot. I have a question. Can a septum heal flipped up? Yes, it can. The only problem with flipping them up is you want to flip them up at the beginning of the day, whatever that is. Let's say, for example, you work a 5-day work. You work a 5-day job. You work Monday through Friday. And what you want to do is you want to flip it up on Monday, and then if you want to flip it down, wear it down at any point, flip it down at the end of the week. Don't be constantly flipping it up and down every single day. That can cause problems, issues, etc. Thank you for the question, and we'll move on to another one here. LTR. You might have answered this before, but since you have been doing this for years, what is the craziest, most exotic piercing you've done? This is a really common question. We had a Q&A that just talked about this. We talked about, what is the weirdest tattoo or piercing you did? And basically, I really tend to do more traditional piercing, more established piercings. I have done a few experiments here and there. We're going to silent that. Damn it. I knew I forgot to do something. It's been a busy morning, boys and girls and guys and gals. I always say this. I've done a lot of very interesting people over the years. I've met some very interesting people, including Paul from Slipknot and all the guys from Slipknot who I've all pierced all of them at one point. I guess exotic or strange. I did do a trans person who was transferring from male to female, and we did a series of scrotum piercings and interlocked them so it kind of appeared that he had labias or she had labias. That was one that I did at one point that was really strange and I guess exotic, so to speak. Also, I've done every walk of life, from street kids, punk rockers, metal guys, famous and not so famous, local guys, everything, all the way up to politicians, the daughters of politicians, and various people in power, and doctors, lawyers, attorneys, CEOs, etc. So I've done a little bit of everything, and that's part of why I love piercing. Is every day is different. I have a bunch of appointments lined up after this gets done, so I'm going to meet a wide variety of people today for the first time, and that interaction and doing piercing, the combined with the two, always makes it interesting. Still Chronicles asks, how did you find an apprenticeship? Sip of tea first. Sip of tea. Let's see. When I first got into piercing, which I've already kind of gone through this before, and it's kind of the lore of DaVo, I wanted to get my nipples pierced. I couldn't find anybody to do it, so I started researching. I started grabbing everything I could get my hands on. Back then, one of the biggest sources was Piercing Fans Quarterly International. And what we're talking about is the late 80s, early 90s. Modern Primitive came out. That was a big one. And I started kind of corresponding with a few people I met through the mail, actually. Sent letters and got replies from people. And that was great and wonderful. And talked to a few people on the phone. Trying to research actually doing it myself or having somebody I know do it for me. The more research I did, the more I realized I wanted to do this for a career. The more I wanted to do it, the actual act of piercing was almost more appealing than the actual doing of. When it came down to finding an apprenticeship, it basically came down to who was close by and what I could find. I happen to know through the punk rock scene a bunch of people in Omaha, and that have revolved around American Tattoo and IRA and that whole scene. And they suggested Chuck Hayes, who was Exotics in Omaha, which I think was the first piercing place there. He eventually closed it and moved on to, I want to say, Texas, and became a tattoo artist. So I went over there, did a very, very quick rushed in, not complete apprenticeship, and never stopped learning from there. He gave me the basics. He got me over the initial thing. But as far as a formal apprenticeship like it was, no, it really wasn't to the level. I think, like my current apprentice, she just basically did all the work beforehand. If you're thinking about getting into this, the biggest thing you want to do is start learning how to research everything you possibly can. If you can take courses, you can do, at least get the basics. If you have any type of medical background, that's going to be helpful to get you in. And then it just comes down to, the first thing and foremost is go get pierced by people. Talk to them. Ask them about their experience. Ask them what their suggestions are, because they're going to know the market that you're in more than I do. Become a staple, so to speak. Get tattooed by the people. If they have tattooists there or tattoo artists, get tattooed by those people. Kind of become a fixture at that shop, and that's usually the best way to go. The other thing is just ask. Sometimes people are looking for people. Some people don't. And I get hit up probably 2-3 times a week. Sometimes it seems like it goes in phases, like right after graduation, I think is what it is. And a lot of the things, if you haven't seen my video series on the subject, I really suggest you sit down and watch that. The other thing with the apprenticeship is I was lucky because I had a tattoo artist that I built a huge relationship with who was looking to start piercing or getting piercing at her shop. So that kind of gave me a way in that I wouldn't have had in the industry otherwise. And I got that by consistently getting tattooed by her. Okay, so I think we did that one. Next up is that Horna or Hana or Homa? Hello, I got my Rick. Hello, I got my Rook done in September. When do you recommend that getting downsized? P.S. The current barbell doesn't bother me and doesn't get caught. The longer you wait for a piercing to season, the longer you wait for it to go through the healing process, the easier it is to change the jewelry. The biggest problem with changing the jewelry too soon, well, the biggest problems, is first off, you can cause trauma to the piercing, which is going to suddenly cause swelling in the piercing, and then you're going back to the old jewelry because otherwise it impacts. The other thing is dislodging skin growth, because if you do that, you're going to start the whole healing process all over again. The last thing is not be able to get the jewelry back in. It's why I generally suggest for the first week or so that you go ahead and, or the first year or so that you go ahead and get them pierced or get the jewelry changed professionally. Go see your piercer. Hopefully they don't charge for it. I don't understand piercers that do, and have them change it for you. But as far as, let's see, you said you got it done in September. So we're September, October, November, December, about 3 months in. That should be good. If it stopped discharging and the piercing also pulled in and it looks healed and the jewelry moves smoothly and easily without any pressure, it shouldn't be a problem to go ahead and go in there and put in a shorter barbell. And I hope I'm not freezing up too bad because it's telling me my streaming quality isn't what it should be. Thank you, LTR. No, wait, that was awesome. Thank you. And yes, I enjoy doing the videos. No way around that. Love doing them. It's been kind of a bit of an interesting journey, to say the least. Initially, I started out playing with doing vlogs like everybody on the planet, and kind of, a little bit of traction. I was doing stuff with the booking stuff that I was doing with live bands and so forth, and it was fun, but it really wasn't that exciting. And then I just took it. I decided once we opened up the new shop, we used to be located in a different location. Back in 2017, there was a giant bowling alley that we were attached to. A really cool one, vintage. It was called Plaza Lanes. It was from the 1950s or 40s. Had a giant neon bowler on the top of it. Really cool stuff. So what happened is it caught on fire in the building. So like out of the blue, I went from always having this stable business to boom, it's gone, done, over with. We got to start all over again. So we opened up this shop. Jack Lowe found it from Skin Kitchen. It did a fantastic job. Less than a little over a month we were open. So when I got, it kind of made me kind of realize that some of my hobbies were taking and distracting too much from this, and I needed to focus more on the business. And part of that was starting this channel. And out of frustration, because we've all watched the video, 50 of information of some piercing, the information is it's okay, but it's and it's not out. So that's like my big concern, and I just thought that great opportunity videos. On this platform. Mispronounce your additional. This is silly. Not you. This is silly. If the use any differently. Here's the deal, boys and girls. Someone else. Floating navels are done in a way that navels used to be done. When I first back in the 1990s, and the main type of jewelry used was either rings, or there was like a D-shaped ring that was really popular for a while, the good arcade. We made them more into the navel. Basically, if you take your finger and pinch down, may not, unless you're. We talked about this last, or talked about this recently in a video. Come across over my years. I've been inside people's. Clean them. Pinch down. You're going to feel there's a natural lobe of tissue, and that lobe and go. It was more. Now, not to curve barbells because it had more. If people like it does contact, but because it's shaped perfectly, the piercing is more outside the navel and less inside the navel. So when they do floating navels, they're piercing your navel correctly. That's what that is. And all they're doing is upside down. I don't think there's any difference in the jewelry other than the large stone goes on the top. If that's such a great idea, why they do move. You can see that. So flipping the jewelry over, you're going to see the ball easier. So that's the whole thing with the floating navel. And it's funny because that's one of the things somebody asked me about, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And had to look it up and realize, you're piercing the way. Thank you. You're welcome. What are your thoughts? What does that say? Retainers. My cursor was right over the top of it. It tends to adhere to whatever it's in contact with. I have actually stretch piercings where they were stretching them using these, where skin actually to take it out, peeled it out. This totally, it was worse than a blowout. Finding quality silk out there selling the best quality, and it isn't the same stuff. And I will be honest with you, I think the company was called Somewhere. It's been a while about it. But as far as fine for sure. Retainer is designed to be in the body for a short time. It's not designed to be 10 or 15 years. A piece of jewelry would be 20 or 30 years, like a good piece of jewelry. It's designed for situations like, for example, you have to about you having conductive, they are going to remove the jewelry. So, situation. There's also showing up in MRIs and X-rays, and them not or having complete certification that the material itself is the correct type and is compatible with what So that's what retain. Personally, my favorite type of pass. It can be made of toxic materials, and it's usually wear it for long. Okay. Okay. Also, keeping the longer bar and new nipple piercing, hair healing that just after a month of getting the piercing, and I think I prefer the longer bars. No, it doesn't really cause problems whatsoever. Anytime we want you to down a lot of movement, it's kind of a balancing act. We want piercing to limit as much as possible. If the jewelry is creating more movement than needed, switch out. Otherwise, yeah, I've had clients heal out all the way through with not an issue. So I keep freezing up, don't I? I've been experimenting with using this thing as a web, and I've been experimenting with this as a like S or I'm sorry, everybody, if you're having issues. Can old male nipples be? It depends. All piercings rely on your. It's different. It has their own, etc. Let's see if I can do it. And basically, according to everything, YouTube has a and what I'm showing. So that's anyway. Nipples is usually we have to go behind the less situation where you get kind of a up in the middle. It'll be more of a curve. Well, if you've ever seen things where it would tunnel over the top instead of having, or even some genital piercings like frenums. With nipple piercings, especially male nipple piercings, for some reason it doesn't migrate beyond that point. It'll just kind of. You won't have if it's a little bit more to, and it kind of grows out. Like in the way you actually see a piercing. Why is it doing this? Okay. It's almost not now. Okay. It didn't fine to low. Is that the way you schedule in advance? But if it doesn't, it's it does. And I don't even know if I have a particular computer. Any other questions? Now that this thing is completely see. Okay, no, it isn't on this computer, so we're gonna just suffer through this for a while longer, and hopefully our upload gets fast. Understand why it isn't. The AT. I don't know. I've heard people call, and I've heard AT again. I'm transferring quite a bit of data. I don't know why. Okay, it's back to good again. I don't. Still learning the streaming game. And there it goes. It's not enough to properly do it. Okay. Originally, I thought is that I was brought too high of a quality. It's consistent load speed or upstream here might be the issue, but it seems like OBS has been buffering a lot. So maybe that's what we need to do in the future. Questions anybody's got, I will continue to try to answer them. This perpetual freezing stuff is really... Sorry about that, everyone. I don't know. I'll have to go the other way around and see if that solves it. More thing to do with so much free time. And maybe better. It's fun to open this page. I'm so used to working with dual screens because I've got this thing going. I don't have dual screens. That's complicated. I'm complicated. Let's see. Man, I'm just I'm like a stop start. Okay, so we're going to try a different. Not what I wanted to do today. Here, sir. Have them take a look at your anatomy, and that's the best solution. Mandy, what is, I believe that's how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. What is the max number of piercings you should get in one go? Many, but I'm afraid reject. Depends on the. If you're doing a small area, more of an impact. Problems. Usually, the more most people 2 to 3 is about the tops, and then also it has something to do with whether or not you have the pain tolerance to handle a bunch of them at once. It's kind of what you can handle. The more you have healing at one time, the longer it's going to take to heal. It's kind of like death by 1,000 going to be to infection because your immune system's depleted. Doing them in an area of all close swelling, genital piercing. Once you get into those last couple, and because of the swelling is kicked in, seam or appear or end up being placed are end of the piercings.